people are constantly craving more and more planet-friendly ways to consciously consume, Unpacked Living, an online low-waste and plastic-free shop, is a great place for anyone to start. Unpacked Living was founded by Sabrina Auclair, a Colombia native who's been living in the U.S. and more specifically in Beverly, Mass. for the past 3 years. In this episode, Sabrina shares with us how her own low-waste and plastic-free journey transformed into Unpacked Living's current online store and her hopes to one day complement it with a brick and mortar. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is Wi-Fi and Water. Sabrina, good evening. Welcome to Wi-Fi and Water. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being patient. You know, I've had some technical difficulties as it is, and so here we are. You helped me patiently weather them, giving me good emotional support, so that was good.
Well, you're welcome.
So you're currently in Beverly?
I am, yeah.
Unpacked Living, which is the name of your company,
Yes.
and Zero Waste to Living, which ties in minimalism, which ties in a bunch of, it's intersectional to a bunch of different things, eco-friendly, forward thinking, and all of that. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how Unpacked Living came to be? When did this idea, when was that moment where you were like, I got to do this. There's nothing else, this is what I need to do.
I gotta do it. Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of it, is intersectional everything. So I am from Colombia, sort of like you. And when I met my husband and I came to live in the United States just 3 years ago, so I'm brand new, I was shocked because, the cultural change was shocking to me to see how disposable this is a disposable society. And I cannot say that in Colombia we're perfect and we don't have this, but it's in a way less manner that we, deal with things. There are many things that we don't do there that happen here, like the obsessive compulsive thing with water bottles in the US is out of control.
There's actually nothing more out of control. And I was at BJ's today. I went with my friend to go actually buy stuff in bulk just because it was cheaper. And he was like, hey, I'm going to go. Do you want to go? And there's an entire aisle of literally a mountain, probably about 30 feet tall, as high as the ceiling there. And it's just all water bottles.
It's insane.
And it's like the water here you can drink from the tap.
The tap, that's my point. So like I come from a country. Actually, when I was lucky, did I just say bueno? Okay. I was lucky enough to live in Bogota for 10 years before coming here and working there. But my hometown, Cucuta, has no drinking water. Like tap water sucks. And the first thing that they tell you is do not drink the water from the tap. So usually what we do in households like mine is we buy these filters for that water. We buy UV filters and we're okay. It attaches to the sink and then you're fine. So everybody does that. There's not like an obsession with like going out and buy tons of plastic water bottles. Like that's not a thing. Also because Colombia is not exactly a capitalistic rich country. So we are not wasteful in that way. We are taught generation by generation on how to just, be happy with what you have and not be wasteful like that. Or maybe that's just me. That was just the way that my grandmother and my mom raised me, to not be wasteful. Like the opposite, be resourceful. And you get like things from like generation to generation. I own things that used to be my grandma's and my mom's too. So like it's not like you have to buy everything new. I have a love for antique stores and for vintage things and for repurposing, reusing, and just give new life to things. So I think that was embedded in my mind, like that sort of way of thinking. And when I came to the US and I married my husband, he's American. He is the kind of American that's very wasteful. Like he used to buy before obviously he lived with me. He was single guy. He
You say that
buy
with a smirk. You say that with a
yeah.
little smile.
Well, because I think like we made each other better, but like I improved him a lot. He used to buy like paper plates and plastic cutlery and Pepsi in plastic bottles. And like, okay. And I was okay with that. But I was also like, we have a China, we have, just silverware. Why don't we just use things and wash them like normal people do? Well, what's normal for me is not normal for you. So yeah, he kind of like got into these and it wasn't like in a nagging way or like, oh, we have to be eco-friendly, let's save the environment. No, that was not me at all. Like, I was a fast fashion consumer, normal girl, living my life. I didn't even know that plastic free or zero waste was a thing. But then when I got here, the thing that shocked me the most was that I have no access to recycling. I still don't.
You still don't
So
have access to recycling.
I don't. I live in a complex, in an apartment complex. Well, this is actually a townhouse complex with 240 households, no recycling whatsoever. So when I started, when I came to live here, I started like dividing my recycling because in Colombia we also do that. And my husband said like, "Oh, there's no recycling; it's just trash pickup." And I was like, destroyed. Like that broke my heart because it's the least you can do, for the planet. So then I started like accumulating things. I was like, well, if we cannot recycle here, maybe we can just like, take things to my office or your workplace. And in doing that, like, separating still like the plastic from the trash and trying to take the plastic to some other place, like maybe and I know that's illegal, but like that's the least I can do. Taking some things to my office or, taking advantage of like other people's access to recycling. I accumulated a lot and I could see with my eyes how much trash you buy, like everything, from toothpaste tubes to plastic shampoo bottles to like literally everything. And I was like, this is insane. So when you ask me when was my aha moment when I decided to do something about it, it was actually in Market Basket in Danvers. I was trying to buy another bottle of shampoo and I said, why? Like, why am I pushed? Why am I obligated to buy trash from companies? Because I want to buy a product. I'm okay with the shampoo, but I don't want the plastic bottle. And
Yeah.
I said, like, no more.
So it was a Market Basket. Well, I have had short hair for a while, so I no longer use shampoo. So I kind of avoid that. But it's been good to also see that more recently there's been a lot more shampoo products. I saw on your website, I was looking earlier, and we can
Tons of
talk
them.
later. But I'm really excited about the kind of little tablets that are now for toothpaste because for a
Mm-hmm.
long time I think that was something. I had a bamboo toothbrush, excuse me.
Toothbrush.
I had the silk floss, but I
Mm-hmm.
was still using traditional toothpaste. And that packaging is so bad and that plastic is so hard and you just know it's going to outlive me by 3 or 4 times and end
Oh,
up in
yeah.
the ocean.
Yeah.
And so it's good to see that there's also alternatives. And returning to what you were saying about Colombia, it's very, very true. I lived in the playita of Barranquilla, and in that little part, it was estrato uno. So
Yeah,
we
exactly.
just had a filter, and we would just drink water from the tap. But then if you hang out with estrato dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, sea,
It
como
becomes like
sea, cinco, seis,
more.
yeah, and for people who are, if you're not understanding Spanish or you know about Colombia, so the way the major cities are kind of broken up to, especially on the coast, is you have stratus 1 up to stratus 6, and these are
Hmm.
completely broken down by the economics of the amount of money that people have who live in the area. So when I lived in the stratus 1, I was there with the Peace Corps, and the family was living paycheck to paycheck, very similar, honestly, to many families in the United States,
Yeah.
just getting by, covering the bills. But yeah, we didn't buy the idea of buying water from water that was contained in plastic when it was coming out of our filter and it was fine was a foreign idea. And yet,
Hmm.
when I would hang out with other people in Barranquilla, they would always buying bottled water was like a sign of wealth.
Yes, it is.
Like you'd go to the club and you would get a shot and a bottle of water,
Yes,
like just to
exactly. That's the
flex on people,
that's
just to show.
the only time you get bottled water if you're out in a club partying.
It
Other than
was
that,
insane.
no.
It was insane. And the idea of even asking for tap water. If I was, if you go to a bar here and you say, "Hey, give me a beer and a glass of water," they're not going to look at you weird. They're going to do it. But in Colombia, especially, so it is interesting around the usage of water and that type of stuff. And that's how people would always, or that's how I would know if I saw another gringo when I was in Colombia because they would have a reusable water bottle.
Yeah.
I'd be like between the reusable water bottle and their type of shoes, I'd be like, all right, I know
Yeah, of
if you're
course.
from Europe or you're from the United States, and so on and so forth. And so, okay, so in the townhomes, they don't offer recycling. So, what types of things are you buying to really live a zero waste or try to live a zero waste lifestyle? Because I don't think that
Yeah.
there's a pure zero waste lifestyle. I think it's actually impossible.
It is. It is. I think the only way to be zero waste is to be dead.
The, the only way,
But we
and
don't want
that's
to be that.
exactly. My introduction to zero waste came when I started a company years ago, which now doesn't exist. It was called Imperador Clothing. And we used raw materials that came from we partnered with a company called Tonelay. And they got all of their clothes because they were against fast fashion.
Yeah.
They got all of their clothes from just piles in the textile market of scraps.
Yeah.
So they'd go get all the scraps, put it together, make clothing, and sell it. Ship it from Cambodia to San Francisco, and then they'd sell it. And when I started this t-shirt company, I knew I wanted to do something that was zero waste. I had seen, the most famous documentary there, The Real Cost. Is that what it's called? The Real Cost?
Something like that. Yeah.
The True Cost or something
The
like
true
that.
cost. Yeah.
The True Cost. And I just kind of like, okay, if I'm going to make a t-shirt, I don't want it to just be another t-shirt. So anyways, full circle, I go to New York, and I was in New York actually the summer of 2019, summer 2019, and I was able to go visit the package free shop that is
Hmm.
in uh
Brooklyn.
it's in Brooklyn, and I'm trying to think of the name. It's in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I walk into the shop, and guess who's there? Sitting right there, the woman who started it,
Lauren.
Lauren Singer.
Hmm.
And I had like a moment where I would have the same moment if I like met James or Falcao.
Really?
Yeah. And I had a moment, and I'm looking at this woman, and it's like not appropriate for me to just be like, oh my gosh, but she is like such an icon in the zero waste,
Yeah.
you know, trash free movement. So that was really cool to see her shop. I bought a bunch of products there. Some of the silk floss I still have, but I'm running out, and I'd like to get more because it's so great. And so when I ran across your comment in the Beverly Facebook page saying, hey, I'm looking for, a storefront so I can start to sell my goods. I run a zero waste package free shop. I was like, I would love to have her on the podcast and talk more.
Nah,
And
that's so nice.
so before we started recording, you were telling me about how the fact that now you live among boxes.
Oh, yeah.
And so what's this looking like? Because your business, and this is such a beautiful thing, it's exploding. And so what are the next steps? What is the future looking like? Because currently you're just online, is that right?
Yeah, so the thing is, also backtracking a little bit, when I decided that I was not going to buy any more plastic, I didn't even know what was I going to do. I had no idea that there was bar shampoo, nothing like you said, nothing. I had like zero clue, but I was so uh like sure, and like I made the decision I'm never gonna buy more plastic. I'm not gonna buy more I'm not gonna give my money to these companies that are contaminating earth. And back in that time, that was January 2019, so that's not like long ago. January 2019, there was like every week, I don't know if that was something like that was psychological or just a coincidence, but every single week I saw in the news some whale that just died in some beach with 40 pounds of plastic in their stomach, or like animals dying everywhere with plastic in their stomach, not only like ocean, but like just wildlife in general. And I was like, what are we doing? Like, why is this happening? I had no idea that it was so bad, or what I was doing, right? That's when I went like down the rabbit hole and found out everything about zero waste. Mine was not Lauren Singer. I actually admire more B. Johnson, which is the zero waste mom, the zero waste home lady that has a household with 4 people, 2 dogs, and she produces no trash, which I still think it's wrong. But
Wait,
I
why?
bet
Why?
because the whole concept of fitting your trash in a jar, it's absolutely impossible. I don't believe that's possible. I believe that that's a marketing. I went to marketing school. I honestly believe that that's a marketing tool, which it's okay because it's their business. If they do it, oh my God, I admire you so much. because there's no reason to bash any of that. One thing is that I don't believe it, but I don't go saying like, oh my god, no, that's not, no. No, I mean, if they do it, like, my complete admiration, but I would not lie to people that way. I'm more into teaching people, or like helping them, doing as much as they can without making them feel bad, because it's really hard.
I think that that's really a tough thing to do
Yes,
because, especially in the United States, and you've hit this, being here for 3 years, you've hit this, and in the United States, you can't tell people what to do. We're
exactly.
experiencing that right now with COVID, where like if you tell someone to wear a mask, they're almost like children because right, if my dad tells me something to do, I'm less likely to do it. If I'm a 5-year-old, 6-year-old child. So it's like, no, you're telling me to wear a mask. I'm not going to wear a mask.
Yeah.
And so we have this entire conversation around liberty and all of that. And so when you tell people, or you show them the facts that show them that by consuming these products, they are polluting the earth,
Hmm.
it's very, very, very difficult for them to deal with. And so I think it's a really tough, these are tough conversations to have with people.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how much do you challenge someone to maybe get outside their comfort zone and think differently about what they consume? Because if it's all just, you know, do everything up until people feel uncomfortable, I think that's how we got to where we are now, by
Hmm.
not engaging in these conversations.
Yeah.
Plastics have been around for,
45 years.
yeah, which in in the mass of human history is a blip. It's a second.
It's nothing.
And yet we have we're on track to, have more plastic in the ocean than fish within our lifetimes,
Yes.
which is very, very shocking. And we both
That's
grew
not,
up near the
and that's
water.
not gonna change. And, it was hard for me to also understand that. Like, it's really hard to try to do something for the planet and still like keep hope, knowing that maybe, like, that you're not doing much. Like, it is, I stopped, like, I had to change my mentality around this, because when I started doing this, I think I was really smart, because I didn't decide right away that I was going to open a store. What happened was that, because of my marketing background, I am an avid market researcher. So when I started looking for solutions and things, of course, the first thing you find is package free shop in New York. Like, that's the holy grail of zero waste stores. And then, but that was not my aim. Like, I was like, okay, yeah, that's really cool. And I thought that there were no products out there. There were not like people, changing the packaging and stuff, because I'm also an interior designer. So I took several semesters in Colombia of like packaging and materials. So I also know, like, more than I should, or more than, most normal people know about plastics and how they're made, and what they really are. And so anyway, when I started discovering that there's all these businesses outside trying to do better, and they're small businesses and obviously have no chance against big corporations, I said, like, okay, my closest zero waste store is New York, it's Brooklyn. So there's nothing around me, but there's all these beautiful products being made here in soaps and bar shampoos, and I started meeting people. I decided to, okay, I'm gonna make a blog about it. So I'm gonna create my Instagram account, and I'm gonna just share what I'm doing, because I don't know what I'm doing. So maybe if I can do it, everybody can do it. And that was my aim. Like, okay, I'm gonna share my plastic free journey, and I'm gonna just like share with everybody what I find, where I go, like, oh, I saw this cool product in, I don't know, TJ Maxx, or I don't know, Trader Joe's, and I will take a picture and share it. But that was all pre-COVID, right? When we could actually go to like bulk bins and use our reusable bags and our produce bags and stuff like that. By the way, I've been using reusable bags like my entire life. So that was not no new for me, nothing new for me. I also been using bar soap for literally my 34 years of existence. So that's nothing new for me. So there was something that I was already doing that made me feel a little bit better. But then I said like I just need to do something. I need to create a store. I need to start a store. And that's when I decided that. But before that, I created a group because I needed to know if there was people in Massachusetts interested in zero waste and interested in doing this, because I need to know if I have customers, right? That's what a market researcher do. So there is a group, a gorgeous group in Facebook called Zero Waste Massachusetts that I created last year, and it has almost 4,000 members now.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
all over Massachusetts, and they keep coming every day. You should join.
I 100% will, as soon as we're done recording, I'm definitely going to join
Yeah,
because I try. And the reason why I said earlier that I think it's impossible is because even if you go to the supermarket and you bring your glass jar and you get your grain from the grain trough, I get my beans from the bean trough and I put them in my, I get my, I don't know, 30 ounces of beans and I put them in my glass jar and then I leave and I'm all zero waste. I probably got to the supermarket in a car and those beans got to the supermarket using fossil fuels. And so our entire world is based off of fossil fuels, whether
yes,
it's plastic, which is made from fossil fuels, or the burning of fossil fuels to then transport goods and services. And so that's kind of always why I push back a little bit. And I do agree with what you said about that whole I have all my trash in a jar. I think it's more of a marketing ploy, if anything, to ask ourselves. You see that, and it's very like jolting, like, whoa, is that possible? And even just asking, is that possible? I think starts to set people down a different path where when they're in the supermarket, they think about what they're buying. Because
yes,
I notice myself when I go to the supermarket, and say, in the Stop and Shop in Beverly, there's 25 lanes. I literally go down two of them because
yeah, me
most of the
too.
other stuff I just get in produce and I have produce bags. And so I try not to use any plastic, basically any packaging, because obviously that's more in line with the zero waste. And so now you're in the United States, you're married. What have been the most difficult things? You said, your husband was wasteful and you've improved him, or he's gotten better at this. And I think it just takes a little bit of just takes practice like anything. What are the
Yeah,
things that you guys still struggle with, if anything?
actually, he has been a wonderful companion through all this craziness that I created, because it started like nothing, it started just like I told him, like, I think there must be a better way. I don't want to keep buying trash. He understood. He was like, sure. I mean, that makes sense. And then I started researching for things. And then I told him, like, I want to open a store. And he's like, well, you don't have any money. He's like, also, because I'm from Colombia, I had no clue how to open a business. Because one thing is to, open a business in my country where I know where everything is and how to do everything. And then here, but luckily he went to business school in Salem State.
Oh, okay.
He's the one that has been like really ground, like, getting me off that cloud where I live all the time, where I can do anything. That's good because I'm the dreamer, but he's the person that keeps me ground. He was the one that, told me how to do things, helped me. He has supported me every single step of the way. I started my business with $2,000, literally. I think I'm getting off track of what you asked me. Oh, what's the most difficult part? So far, when it comes to reducing waste, is not it hasn't been that difficult, actually, because I know exactly what I like and what I need. I have never been one of those people that just goes out and buys everything like new. Yeah, I'm just gonna toss away all the plastic I have and gonna buy everything eco-friendly and see what works. I'm not that way. I know exactly what I need. I know exactly what I use. So I've been swapping. I've been like using everything I already had in plastic, and when I run out of it, then I try to find the sustainable version of it. In doing that, I decided one day that I was going to take out every single plastic product that was in my house, in every cupboard, in every cabinet, everywhere, put it in my dining table, and took a picture. That picture is in my website. I don't know if you saw it.
I didn't see it, but is it on your Instagram?
It is in my Instagram,
Okay,
yes.
cool.
It is in my Instagram, and I already did the 1 year update on it. I didn't hide anything, and it was everything in that table. It You could barely see the table. It was covered in bottles, detergent, shampoos, plastic bags, band-aids, everything you can think of. And then a year later, you could actually see the table. It's not perfect yet. I'm still going through plastic. So that's what I tell people all the time. You have to be patient because this doesn't happen, overnight. And the most difficult part, I think it has been.
I did see the photo. I want to just say when you're thinking about the most difficult part, I did see the photo, and you're right. You can see more table in 2020 than you could in 2019.
Yeah, but like you can see, it's not like oh my God, I got rid of everything. No, no.
I think that's super good though to see transparency because sometimes in Instagram, we'll see like a guy who's 500 pounds, and
Oh
then the
yeah.
other picture he'll be like he'll have a six pack, and one picture will say 2016, and the other picture will say 2020, but the way our mind reads it is like, oh, that was instantaneous because they're in the
It's
same
immediate.
photo.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just the way we digest change. And I think sometimes that scares people that the change is so drastic between maybe the guy who's 500 pounds and then the guy who's 180 and has a six pack.
Well, that's the sorry to interrupt you. That's the mindset of the jar, the mason jar. People is like, oh no, I have too much trash in my house, and now I have to reduce it in a month to a mason jar. That's not the way it goes. Not
Yeah,
at
it's
all.
really a progress over perfection journey, which is why
Yeah.
I think it's impossible. I think perfection is constantly trying to progress
Yes.
in that sense, that there is no end. There is no, it's the process.
Zero waste and plastic free are marketing terms. They are keywords. And that's what whenever I give talks, and I can go to like I've done some sustainable talks with like city officials. They invite me, and I say what I'm doing. The first thing I explain to them is the terms, like the definitions of zero waste and plastic free. And what's funny is that zero waste actually has a definition. Like you can find it online, and it says that zero waste is a movement of people trying to lower their waste by reducing, reusing, and not throwing anything in the trash. Perfect. Okay, got it. What's the definition of plastic free? It doesn't exist.
Isn't it just self-evident in the title?
No, and then people think that if you're zero waste, you're plastic free and vegan, or vice versa, and that's not true. Yes, they like interconnect. They're linked somehow, but it's not that. It doesn't mean that because you're one, you're the other too.
It,
It
it
takes a
isn't just
while.
It takes a while, and it is interesting how they do play with one another because in and around the time where I really started to go more zero waste, and I've always thrifted. I have been thrifting since high school. I've been
Hmm.
thrifting for a long time. My buddy Jeff and I, we used to go to the Salvation Army in high school in the spring when we weren't playing soccer in the fall, and we would just go find clothes, and that's where we shopped. I rarely bought things. This has been a lifelong journey, and I have to thank my parents for that because
Hmm.
they led the way. They've been thrifting from since I was a little kid. And at the time that I basically started to really go 100%, like since I've gone zero waste or, anti fast fashion, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
I've only bought, I think, two or three things now new that I just couldn't find at a thrift store or I wasn't going to be, I think it's better to also buy something new than break myself economically and buy the same thing at a thrift store every 6 months. If I can get something new that's going to
Yes,
last
yes.
longer,
Hmm.
there's that interesting conversation about like, yeah, your personal finances, like don't go broke trying to be whatever. In and around that time, I also stopped eating meat and I've
Hmm.
been pescatarian now for a long time and I rarely have fish. I fish once every 6 months or something from the sea, once every 6 weeks, excuse me, rarely, especially now during the pandemic. I think I've had, eaten meat a couple times. And so it is interesting to see how those two dovetail together.
Yes,
And a lot of that has to do with the packaging. When you go
yes.
and you buy chicken, two breasts of chicken, they're normally in the styrofoam base. They even have a little water thing on the inside,
Yeah, with a cling wrap.
and then they have the cling wrap around it. And so, yeah, you had your chicken. It was great. You enjoyed your chicken breast. You just like that styrofoam is going to be around for
Forever.
so long. And
Hmm.
so it is interesting to see how those things kind of dovetail and how people do conflate zero waste, plastic free, and veganism.
Yeah.
You go out and you give talks in community Who invites you to talk? Where have you given talks
So
about this?
it's been really cute, but I say cute because I still cannot believe how lucky I have been. When I started all this, even before I actually opened the store, I was invited. I have no idea why. I didn't know that the Zero Waste Massachusetts group was going to be so big. And there was somebody contacted me from WCBV, and they did a chronicle on how to be eco-friendly, and they interviewed me.
I saw this and I
Okay.
watched this, and this is back when I had the t-shirt company. And I saw where you were. I was like, I think that's in Beverly. And then they're like, yeah,
Hmm.
she's in Beverly. I was blown away because I remember the biggest thing you were talking about was how you didn't have recycling. And
Yes,
you're like, how could this possibly be?
I'm an anti-recyclist.
Yeah. And so I remember seeing that and being like, I have to, and I wasn't able to, or maybe, you know what? Here's the other thing. I may actually be part of that Facebook group. I have to go check. I may have already,
Maybe.
I may have joined honestly when I saw that because I believe that you were talking about that Facebook
Hmm.
group. I believe
I
I
didn't.
joined.
That was the funniest part because I was like, when they decided to come and film that, it was before I had the store. It was like a month before, but then when it aired, I already had the store, but they didn't mention the store. They mentioned the group. They were like, "Oh, by the way,
But the group,
Sabrina
but
Auclair."
you had the group.
Yes,
I
and when
think I joined the group. I'd have to check, but I think I
yeah,
joined the
but
group because I was
like
like,
I said, it was like 4,000 people, and that night that Chronicle aired, my phone was gonna explode with people joining the group. So that has opened, like that exposure opened me and my store and the group to like everybody and to many other things. And I also was featured in the Boston Globe. So it's like a few things that have happened and a few other magazines like have named me. And then I started doing pop-ups with my store because I don't have a store yet, but I do want to like reach out to the community. I want to expose people to these products as much as I can. So after a while, I opened the store on July 1st, 2019. Just in time for Plastic Free July. I thought it was the greatest thing I could do, and I just went for it, and I did everything myself. I created my own website. I ordered the products. I ship myself. I pack everything. I do all my marketing. I post everything. And then, the community started growing. And there's nothing that I love more than to be in a community, to belong somewhere, right? So I started meeting people, and thanks to the Zero Waste Massachusetts group, a lot of people that own like recycling companies, all the composting people that they are in that group. All the owners of like Blacker Compost, City Compost, they're all in the group. The Mass DEP coordinate, everybody's in that group, which is it became a great hub for people to ask anything and get the right answers directly from the people that runs these companies. So if you go in there and ask like, "Oh, hi, can I like recycle a pizza box?" It's not going to be confusing. You're going to get 25 people saying like, "Yes, you can, but not the greasy parts." And the greasy parts you can just compost. And it's like a manual now. And it became this gorgeous, beautiful community of people just helping each other. We keep it as clean as possible. We do not attack each other. We share all these initiatives by like TerraCycle and try to push people in the most non-judgy way to do better. It's not like, "Oh, look, I just found like, I don't know, eggs in the carton and I didn't buy them in plastic." There's a rule in the group that say that you cannot judge people on their choices, the nutritional choices, because there's always, and I don't want to generalize anything, but there's always the vegan person or the vegetarian person that is like, "But you should not be eating eggs." Why bring people down when they're trying to do better? This person probably a week ago or a month before was buying eggs in plastic and in the most unsustainable way. Now, at least, is buying them in like the carton that can be composted, and they're probably, I don't know, free range, which for a vegan person makes no difference because it's still, animal products, but it's better. We have to encourage people to do better. packaging is not gonna go away anytime soon. So the least we can do is to try to find it as sustainable as possible. That's what the group did for me. And that's all the exposure I got. And because there's so many people that belongs to like the city community, the like the sustainable green sustainable Tingsboro, and like the green whatever Peabody, and all these people that manages these groups in the cities. So they invite me, used to, because with coronavirus now we don't do that anymore, but they used to invite me a lot for like these talks, these zero waste talks, and like how to do this and how to start. And my message is really clear whenever I do these talks, and it's like, don't freak out. Like, this is not an all in or nothing. It's a process. And anything, as little as it might seem, any little change that you do helps. It's accumulative, and this is contagious. When somebody sees you drinking from a stainless steel straw and reusing your water bottle at work, or bring your lunch in your own container to work with your silverware instead of using the plastic one, all these things, it's contagious. People is like, oh, I never thought about bringing my own, like, fork and knife to work and then just wash it, like, oh, that's better. That already happened in my office, because I do have a full-time job. Didn't mention that before.
I have the same thing. I have my 9 to 5, and then I have my 5 to 9. And in my 5 to 9, I have this podcast. I'm on another sports podcast, actually about soccer,
Nice.
and I have a couple other projects. And so, but I think that's really the way of the world, though.
Yeah.
People have their 9 to 5s, and then they have their 5 to 9s, which maybe point more towards how they're trying to influence the world for the better and really do what you're
Hmm.
doing. And so, with your online shop, it's fascinating, your online shop, to me, because in the literally the last podcast, which was speaking with Angela from Kind Lab, it was all about her transition from going from her
I
store.
love Angela, by the way. She's the best.
It's about going from her store to online.
Online. Hmm.
And so you're trying to take your online store and create a more front facing storefront, which
And you
I
know
think is
what's funny?
really cool.
You know what's funny? I was interested in Angela's space in Cabot Street.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a big space.
it's huge, and something happened last week, and it's hilarious because thanks to this community and thanks to knowing so many people, businesses like hers, Kind Lab, opened the doors for me to do pop-ups in their businesses. I did two pop-ups at Kind Lab, and I met Angela, and she's wonderful. And because I'm also a thrift store person and a consignment store person, I know the people from Worthy Girl, like
Yep. Down
down
the street.
Cabot,
Yep.
Pamela. And Pam loves what I do. I obviously love what they do, and I love their store. And turns out Worthy Girl is moving to Kind Lab.
Really?
Yeah.
This is like insider trading information. I didn't know
Yeah.
this.
And guess who was going to take Worthy Girl?
Was that you?
Me. Yeah, I fought for weeks to get that space. I didn't get it because I'm not big enough.
Yeah, because I feel like you're looking for a space that's maybe a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit more intimate.
Yeah, I need to
Um,
start with like really something super small. This was like a huge step that it just happened. And Pamela, she's like, "Oh my God, it'll be awesome if you take it, but like there's somebody else interested. Like, talk to the landlord." And I did, and it just didn't work. I wasn't chosen, but I knew it was a long shot. I knew it was too big for me.
It's okay. And so talking about your online store, I believe, and this shows it time and time again in my life, the 80/20 principle, which is like, 80% of your revenue comes from really 20% of your products. And so what are the products that people are most interested in buying on your store?
I just put them actually in the homepage. People love my best seller of all times is the zero waste dishwashing block from No Talks Life, which is, if you lived in Colombia, you know that we wash our dishes with like Acción, with the tub, and the soap is not liquid soap, it's like a bar,
Yep.
but it happens to come in like a plastic tub. But it's the same principle. It's solid soap, like bar soap and bar shampoo. This is a bar made by a wonderful mom and daughter in, I think they're in California. I think I should know these things by now. Anyway, they have this wonderful brand called No Talks Live that all zero waste stores carry, including me. And they have this dish soap that is a bar, and it lasts lasts way longer than 3 bottles of any dish soap, and it's wonderful. It's a great product. It takes away any grease, any gunk, any anything from pots, pans, glasses. And the most wonderful thing is you can also use it for taking stains of your clothes and taking labels of glass jars.
I will get that. I'm probably got about a month left in my current dish soap situation, but I've been wanting to transition out of that because it's one of the more well, it's one of the bigger plastic items I have because I don't really have much plastic in the house anymore, which is nice. And that is something that's definitely needed. And so that's for the kitchen. What about personal items? Floss, toothpaste,
Yeah.
toothbrushes, shampoo.
Well,
What other items are sought out?
the best sellers are, aside from the dishwashing block, is the silicone bags that replace the Ziploc bags. Those sell like crazy. I actually, it's because they're featured also with me in the plastic free section in the Chronicle. I show them. So people like really interested in those. So that's another thing. Obviously the floss sells like crazy, and I have all the kinds. I have vegan floss, I have silk floss. I want my store to have everything anybody can think of that is plastic free or sustainable. And I have like a set of, ethics or like goals that I want from a product that I want to sell, because it's not just selling for selling. I want mostly women owned businesses, local businesses. I want to obviously support Latino owned businesses, minority owned businesses, keep it as local as possible because less carbon footprint, of course. But I also have the staples, of course, like this dishwashing block is made in California, but this is something that everybody that goes into zero waste wants to try. Some things that I sell a lot to, obviously the bamboo toothbrushes. I mean, I don't know. I think that everything sells. You know what I sell a lot? The coconut brushes for like cleaning dishes and the loofahs, like anything that has to do with cleaning your dishes, bestseller.
Yeah, because sponges are, we go through sponges a
Oh
lot
yeah.
and
Yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah.
horrible. And then they just degrade down into like the little microfibers that
Ugh.
then aren't detected and are floating around the ocean, even if we can't see them.
And not only that, but sewer systems, and like when the water is getting clean to come out of our tap water, those filters don't get the microplastics. So we're drinking microplastics. Yeah, it's bad.
It's in some sense, it's a plastic pandemic. And it's actually my moment of clarity where I was like, okay, this is something I really want to take on was when I saw A Plastic Ocean,
Oh
which
yeah.
used to be on
Mm,
Netflix, but that really did it for me. I was raised in
yeah.
Beverly. I love the ocean. I'm more of an ocean than a mountain person. And seeing that was just kind of like, this is not good. We are in some serious trouble and we all have a part to play. We're all accountable, which is cool. And
Yeah.
so like you said, any little thing that you can do is a huge step. If you go from
Yes.
getting Nellie's eggs, which come in that horrible plastic, to then getting it, in carton, in like cardboard,
Hmm.
that is, you're already taking a massive step forward. Because now, if you get eggs once a week, that's 52 of these plastic things in a year, right? In 10 years,
Yeah,
that's 520. Like 520 of those egg things would like fill your car up. And so it's this
I
one
know.
simple little action. And it really is a butterfly effect when you start to extrapolate and think about making just simple little things to get outside
Yeah.
your comfort zone and change the way that you invest your money.
But it's not even getting outside your comfort zone. It's living your life the way you want to live it, but not in a wasteful way. It's just changing those things that you see that maybe you can improve. I say to people like, don't think that there's a manual that says like, oh, you have to buy bamboo toothbrushes and you have to buy silk floss and you have like there's like a whole package that you can buy. Welcome to zero waste, and then they give you your reusable bottle. And no, like, you can't keep drinking your coffee from Dunkin' Donuts every day. That's up to you. Nobody's going to tell you not to do it. But maybe, instead of going and ask for an iced coffee every day with a straw, bring your own straw. you know like that's something super small you can do. Keep using the plastic cup. Yeah, nobody's going to tell you not to do that, but at least change the straw. That is something that is saving the earth a lot of pollution.
I think COVID's been interesting too, because if I used to have my coffee mug and I would go in and say, hey, fill it up. Now you can't do that because of the COVID, because they don't want, people touching, either want to keep the touch down. And so as a Fulmite, being the coffee, being the three pieces of an iced coffee, right? The cup, the lid, and the straw. So yeah, if you can reduce the straw, you're already moving towards a different, you're reducing 33% of what would be in every transaction. And as you know, people are crazy about their iced coffee,
Yes.
especially in this area, because it's hot
But
for
that
like
is
6
it's,
weeks.
it's just little changes that you can do without disrupting your life too much. And that those are at the beginning when I started this, I used to get like really annoyed and really pissed off at just people in general when I saw it, every time I saw people walking down the street with Dunkins in their hands, I wanted to like snap their heads off. And like, the people in my office would come with Starbucks and use plastic cutlery and stuff. And that was like stealing the joy from my life. Like I was like really in a negative position because I was like, oh my God, nobody wants to save the planet. It's just me against everyone. Why isn't everybody doing this? And that was like consuming me from, inside out. And then I had to like change my mind and say, like, okay, first of all, you're not perfect. And there's no such thing as the perfect environmentalist. That's a lie. And your life, it's very different from everybody else's life. What's important here is to encourage people to do better every day and to give them the tools and information that they need to make changes without disrupting their life. And the least I can do is to bring awareness to their life.
Do you have information like this on your website?
Yeah, tons of it.
So tell us what's the website? Where can people get that information and also
It's
see all your products?
Well, Instagram is a big tool for me. I do share way more there than anybody else. Obviously, the group, I mean, the Zero Waste Massachusetts group, that's like the best. Well, it's not just me because it's too many people now. I do have some other people helping me. So I'm the owner and the admin, but Liz Antanavica, she's part of the Sustainable Tingsboro committee in Tingsboro. She's a very good friend and she's helping me too. The Crazy No Plastic Lady on Instagram, Julia Burrell, she's also part of the group and an admin too. So I have a few more ladies helping me there, but it's just wonderful. Everybody shares wonderful information. That's the first one. Instagram, second one, obviously my ad is at Unpacked Living. Then I do obviously have my Facebook profile for the shop. And if people want to know what events or like which city am I going to be next, because I try to do pop-ups every single weekend, Facebook is the place because I share the events there. My website, of course, is unpackedliving.com, and that's the store. And I have an eco blog where I share, some things. And there's also the press side where you can see the WCBB interview and every other magazine or feature that I get. I share it there, but
Is
mostly in
that
Instagram.
so? In Instagram, it's Unpacked Living. On Facebook, it's also Unpacked Living.
Yes.
On Facebook, the group is Zero Waste Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Yes.
And then the website is unpackedliving.com.
Yes.
Okay, well, this has been great. I will follow up with you after about a couple of the products that I'd like to get.
But of course, and you get a discount and I'll deliver it personally to your house.
What? See, this is why you gotta invest locally. So
Exactly. Especially for the holidays.
Especially for the holidays. Shout out, the holidays are coming.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sabrina, for joining. And I look forward to keeping in touch, and I will definitely join Zero Waste Massachusetts.
Thank you so much for letting me speak about this in your show. I love it. I love the way you support your community. And yes, I mean, anytime.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good day. No,
Bye.
good day. Good night.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Wi-Fi and Water, and be sure to check out Sabrina's website at unpackedliving.com. And if you're on your smartphone listening to this, please subscribe and leave a review. This just makes it easier for everyone else to find the podcast. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook for more updates, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.